Good afternoon, everybody. It's your boy Pigskin Pete. Happy Friday to everybody. Look, I'm not gonna lie. Um, I almost didn't do this stream tonight. I missed the one last weekend. I did one on Thursday night, I think it was, and then I was supposed to do one Friday. Something came up. Supposed to do one Saturday. Something came up. Scheduled it for Sunday, and then as I was getting ready to go on Sunday, the whole Kobe Bryant thing happened, and people didn't want to see me on YouTube after that. I didn't really feel like being on YouTube after that. But tonight, as it would have it, I don't know if I got the coronavirus or whatever the hell that Chinese sickness is, but I'm definitely not feeling right. But anyways, I'm putting it together tonight. See if we get some phone calls. Of course, if you want to call in, the number to call in is 864-207-4522. If you want to talk about the Super Bowl, you want to talk about Ed Reed being the chief of staff or the president or the chancellor or the dictator or whatever it is down there in Coral Gables at Miami. We could talk about that. We could talk about recruiting. We could talk about Notre Dame, Florida State, the draft, that offensive coordinator. Did you guys hear about this? That offensive coordinator at Grand Valley State. Now, I don't usually talk about this kind of stuff because people get triggered by stupid stuff on the internet. All you got to do is say one word, and then they go off the deep end. But I don't know if you guys heard the story about this guy. I've been fascinated with this story. The offensive coordinator at Grand Valley State was interviewed, and they asked this guy 3 influential people that he would like to have dinner with to learn something from, or something along those lines. He said JFK and Teddy Roosevelt or something like that. And then the third one, now get this, the third one, this guy even said before he even answered it. He said, I know I'm going to get some crap for this, but it's not what you think. Right there, he should have known. He said he would like to have dinner with Hitler because Hitler was such a great leader. Even though he was a terrible guy, Hitler was a great leader, and he wants to know how he achieved being such a great leader and getting people to listen to him. Now, look, everyone's quick to call somebody a racist. He might be. I don't know. I don't know the guy from a hole in the wall. But even if he is or he isn't, doesn't matter. The guy's a complete and total moron. First of all, he's stupid for not knowing that he shouldn't say that. That's number one. Number two, and probably more importantly, this guy didn't go to school if he doesn't know how Hitler got people to listen to him. Listen, this is the most despicable, evil, vile human being in modern history. And this guy said he wanted to sit down and have dinner with him. Anyways, he was either going to get fired or resign. He decided to resign. Complete an idiot. I'm sure he'll have fun working at Home Depot for the rest of his life. If he could even get a job there. Nice Guy TV with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you, sir. What's good, Pete? What's up with you, sir? Jordan Birch, the quote-unquote commit to South Carolina, took a visit to LSU this past week. Who didn't see this coming? I don't know. And the thing I'm seeing everybody say is, how can you commit to a school and then go visit somewhere else? Because he didn't sign a letter of intent. The letter of intent actually stops other schools from being able to contact you and you being able to go take official visits to other places. But this guy had a press conference with his family at his high school and committed to South Carolina verbally, and then afterwards didn't sign his letter of intent. And then, of course, he goes down to visit LSU. Who knows where he'll go? But I'm telling you right now, if I'm a South Carolina fan, I know they need good players like every school does. And that's the best player that they've had commit, at least verbally. You don't want a guy like that. I wouldn't want a guy like that. He's liable to transfer after a year. Anyways, Logan Rudolph decides he's leaving football, the defensive end for Clemson. You saw my video on Sammy Watkins yesterday. Listen, we can talk about anything you want to talk about. Coronavirus, which I think I have. Talk about that too. Anyway, the number to call in is 864-207-4522. Let me see who's in the chat real quick, and then I will check the phone lines. Tiger Nation's in the house. Ballard Sports Media, and looks like Christian Ballard left some messages and then retracted them. They couldn't have been that bad. Dennis Wilson's in the house. Well, Death Valley, or should I say little brother Death Valley. Anthony Manzano, High Tiger Nation. Slim Shady Canes is in the house. How you doing, sir? The Crowing Cock. Haven't seen you in a while. Nice Guy TV. Chef Camel Toes. Why are you selling your Mustang? I don't know if you're talking to me. I don't have a Mustang. And if I did, I don't know how you know if I was selling it. Thomas Lee. Hitler was Time Magazine's Man of the Year in 1938. He had the world fooled. Yeah, but that was in 1938. It's 2020. We know better now. But I mean, and this offensive coordinator for Grand Valley State sure as hell should know better. Let me go ahead and check the phone lines. Good afternoon. You're on with Pete.
Hey, Pete, it's DeAndre. How you doing, brother?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I see you talking about Ed Reed. I don't know why they won't let me upload that video. I did one, too, earlier today. I'm going to be honest with you. That position makes no sense. And tell Dennis Williams that we the Little Death Valley. They're the tropical storms. But that don't make no sense to me. You have somebody overlooking your head coach. If you're not happy with the head coach, go ahead and fire him. You know, I don't know anybody else that has this position in college football. I mean, Jimmy Johnson, sure enough, didn't need it. You know, Pete Sagerberger, Larry Coker, who probably one that did need somebody looking over his shoulder. I don't get this position. I don't know why they're doing it.
Well, it sounds
it made that. Go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say, it sounds like they created a position for him. I completely understand why they would put him on the staff. First of all, Miami's got a recruiting problem right now. And I'm not saying that they're recruiting bad, but they're not recruiting at a level they need to recruit to compete with even the teams in the ACC that they need to compete with, and definitely not Florida. So Clemson, Florida State, Florida, they need to compete with them in recruiting, and they're not. And Ed Reed will definitely draw in recruits. There's no doubt about that. Plus, I mean, listen, he's a Hall of Famer. And so X's and O's wise, I don't know. You know, that's something I do want to know. If there's a Miami fan that knows this, what are his duties? I know they say he oversees all football operations and assists Manny Diaz and whatever he needs in recruiting or whatever. Is he allowed to, go out there? Is he allowed to coach on the sideline during a game? I mean, I don't think he can if he's not a coach. I don't know.
Yeah, and he's part of player development too. And it's hard to believe they have a recruiting issue, because if I'm not mistaken, outside of Clemson and maybe Florida State for a couple of years, I don't think anybody's out recruited in Miami in the ACC. I mean, I don't think they have. I mean, that number 4, Thomas, he was like one of the best players coming out of college. I mean, I can't go through everybody coming out of Miami Fed, but I keep up with recruiting, and I think they recruit them pretty good.
Yeah, but
they seem like they got a for many years. That's all. There's
a big gap between Clemson, Florida State, and Florida, and then Miami in recruiting. So those are the 3 teams they need to compete in recruiting with in the short term. And they're not anywhere close to that. They're getting a lot of players from the transfer portal and all that. So he'll help out in that way. I think that it's a good move, but they clearly just created the position for him. And the thing that I thought was funny is what they called him, the chief of staff. Like he's like there's no chief of staff of Clemson football. They have a chief of staff for the university. Clemson does, and that guy is like a naval officer. He's not a football player. So
yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he can offer up coaches to be fired off of Manning's staff. And that's why I'm saying it's kind of an odd position, because the guy that's their defensive coordinator, because I listen to Coach Coop and Zoe and all them other guys, I think he could fire or recommend for a coach to be fired, like that coordinator that gave her that last touchdown against Carolina at the end, like he was blitzing or whatever. But I don't care about Miami football. Let's talk about Clemson. Let me ask you this. How do you feel about Clemson defensive line next year?
Well, I mean, we got a couple guys that are transferring, but that's something that's happening on a regular basis now because of all the talent they got coming in there. Obviously, Miles Murphy coming in there, Brian Brzee coming in there. Niles Pinckney said he's coming back next year, so that's huge. So, I think
Jordan is going to be back, too. That's what shocked me.
Who?
Jordan, number 59.
Oh, yeah. The defensive line is going to be way better than it was this year and more experienced, with the exception of Brzee. But I think and we'll see what happens. I think Brzee is going to be a day one freshman starter. He's just, he's already a grown man, not like most of these guys. But you never know till they get there. But from what I can see, I think he's going to be a big-time player. KJ Henry's going to be back. Xavier Thomas is going to be back. So the defensive line is going to be better this year than it was last year. The issue, or not the issue, but the thing that we need to look at the most is the offensive line. Because I know that we've recruited well, and we've had a lot of guys, younger guys, behind that veteran offensive line this past season, but they need, playing time under their belt in big-time situations. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue.
Oh, I was looking at other people's channel that does breakdown of film, and a lot of them pointed out in the LSU Clemson game is that when Clemson blitzed with you and Skalski at the middle, what LSU did to correct the issue, and I wonder if we're going to see a lot of this, because, that's what Brett Brennan was getting paid for, so he's a genius. But people started going 5 wide. LSU went 5 wide to see where the blitzes were coming from. So I wonder what's going to be the change next year, and what's up with our player development in the secondary, because Goodrich is a junior now. He was highly touted. Booth, and I saw some reports that Goodrich was hurt last year, but Booth was highly touted last year. Outside of the Louisville game, you haven't heard from him, and that was for throwing the punch.
Yeah, well,
so I wonder what's up with player development with the DBs.
I'm not too worried about the DBs. We got some guys coming back, and Booth was hurt for some of the year too, and he was a true freshman, wasn't he? Yeah, I think he was. So
yeah, he was true freshman.
Yeah, so I'm not too worried about the secondary linebacker. Skalski's coming back. That other linebacker position might be something to keep an eye on. But really, the entire, as far as I'm concerned, the entire team is stacked and ready to go day one. The only concern I have is the offensive line, but that's just me.
Yeah, but Spector's gonna step in at the other position besides Skalski, and everybody's been talking about Mike Jones for the longest. And I know he might have been hurt, or they redshirted him last year. I think he was listed as a redshirt sophomore. But I want to see what he's going to do, because everybody's been talking about how good this kid is. And I don't think he was like a 4 or 5 star. I think he was like a 3-star. And they're talking about how hard of a hitter he is, like the spring game last year. And we ain't seen the guy on the field. I had never seen him on special teams. And I just wondering, because there was a lot of projections have him started. And I know he's no Isaiah Simmons, because he's a real linebacker. Isaiah Simmons started off as a safety, and they redshirted him and developed that position. But I'm just ready to see what this guy's going to do, because everybody's been talking about him for the longest. Yeah, well,
we're going to find out. And having a stronger defensive line, go back to the 4-3 probably. That's when Clemson's defense is at their best, when they can rush 4 off the line. Last year, those linebackers had a big role in rushing the passer. If they can not have to carry that burden this year, that'll help some of the younger guys. But, hey, listen, man, I'm going to have to let you go because I got another call, and I want to make sure I get to all of them. But I appreciate the call, brother.
All right.
All right, man.
Bye-bye.
There you guys have it. Andre Crawford calling in, bringing the heat like usual. And, of course, I always appreciate him calling in. Good afternoon. You're on with Pete.
The bad guy's here, Pete.
What's up, Slim Shady Canes?
Another beautiful day in the neighborhood.
My name is what? My name is Slim Shady.
What you got for me today, brother?
Well, for starters, as far as this Ed Reed thing goes, I've already listened to what the vast majority of the Miami fan base thinks,
Uh-huh.
I think they're all on bath salts. They have got it built up in their heads that Ed Reed is in some position in between the athletic director and the head coach, and he's going to have some say-so over how this program is ran.
Oh, Ed Reed. Ed Reed. Here you go. Ed Reed is the chief of staff. Here you go.
Yes. There's probably, ever since they talked about it with Alonzo Highsmith a few weeks ago when all that started, I looked it up. There's probably about a dozen, maybe a dozen and a half programs around the country that have it. Penn State's got it. It's basically an assistant to the head coach is what it is.
Right.
An assistant / advisor to the head coach. That is it.
So what's their...
And somehow they've got it turned around that he's going to come in and clear some people out, fire some people, take over. He's not allowed to coach per NCAA rules.
Is he allowed to coach at practice or no?
I don't believe so.
Right.
Now, I'd be lying if I claimed to be an expert on the ins and outs of all the NCAA regulations, but I know they have a limit on how many technical, air quotes, coaches you can have. So I do not think so.
See, that's what I want to know. Can he coach at practice? Can he be in the film room? What are the rules as far as that goes? Also, I'm assuming he can't coach on the sideline during a game. I'm pretty sure if he's not labeled as a coach, he can't do that. But is this like the university's way of making him the heir apparent to Manny Diaz? Making him
No, it's the university's way of placating the fan base.
All right.
So that is literally all it is.
So I'm having a hard time trying to figure out here if you're excited about this or not.
I think it's a good move, but I think it's irrelevant because
you think it's irrelevant?
I think, because I think they're going to fire Manny at the end of the season, if not before.
Wow.
Huh?
Wow, I didn't expect you to say
because
that.
Just with things Blake James has said, with things Manny has said, and with the actions they've taken, they're going to placate the fan base. Well, once you've done it, you have to keep doing it. And the majority of the fan base is already saying 10 wins, win the Coastal, or he needs to go.
10 wins, win the Coastal, or Diaz needs to go?
Yep.
Man, that's a bit
depressing.
Well, I don't. I mean, it depends on whether or not you want Manny Diaz to stay there, no matter what happens. But I think that 10 wins and winning the division is the highest of expectations, and I don't know if that's really what reasonable expectations are, though. Do you?
I don't think so either.
Right.
At all. I mean, as optimistic as I was going into this season, with everything that came out about players skipping curfew, coming in drunk the night before a game, the offensive line was worse than what I thought it was going to be. Granted, they improved over the season.
Right.
There are bigger problems there to fix, and it's not going to be done in a season. And this fan base has got it stuck in their heads that all they were missing was a competent quarterback and offensive coordinator, and they're going 15-0 winning a national championship, and that's just not reality.
No, it's definitely not reality.
I mean, for all that they wanted to blame everything on Dan Enos, I listened to the Through the Smoke podcast with Manny Navarro and Kelvin Harris. The biggest problem with Dan Enos was the players didn't like him. Why didn't the players like him? Because he yelled at them.
I'm going to say something.
Hurt their feelings.
I'm going to say something right now that probably is not going to make a lot of Miami fans happy, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think Miami's got a culture problem.
They do.
I think the turnover chain, as fun as that is, and isn't the turnover chain Manny Diaz's idea to begin with whenever he was coordinator?
It was. He came up with it in the 2017 season.
Yeah. I think they're recruiting guys that are all about individual accolades, and the turnover chain is a microcosm of individual accolades. Look at me, look what I did. Yeah, you don't see teams like, the teams that are at the top of college football, the teams that are competing for championships every year. You don't see things like that. And I'm not saying, and people say, oh, Pete, you don't understand Miami's culture. It's all about flash. Look, it's not 1990 anymore. I understand that, there was a time when Miami was dominating college football and they were a real flashy team, but things have changed. Times have changed. And I think that they need to just change the entire culture and the type of guy that they recruit there. I've even heard, and this isn't like a rumor that I heard from, some other college football fan who hates Miami. I heard this straight out of Greg McElroy and Danny Cannell mouth on the radio that when they bring recruits on official visits to Miami, they take them out to nightclubs. That doesn't sound like a good idea to me. Do you know?
That's something that I know that they've done for the better part of 30 years.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the turnover chain is necessarily the problem. I think it's individual players. Because you were seeing a lot of it out of a small group of players, two in particular, and I'm sure you can attest to this. If you've got 11 guys on offense, if you have two guys not giving 100% effort on every play, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And two of the biggest problems, Jeff Thomas and Jaron Williams. Yeah. And honestly, I'm starting to lose a little faith in Manny, because it came out that before the FIU game, Jaron Williams broke curfew, came in drunk. Manny started him anyway.
Well, see, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. It's not about the turnover chain. What you just said is a perfect example. Do you think if a player came in drunk for Nick Saban or for Dabo Swinney or probably even for Ed Orgeron or any of these other coaches, do you think they would have started?
Negative.
Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. And it has nothing to do with the chain itself. I know people love the chain. It's just the chain, to me, the chain is a symbol of what you were just saying. That's where I come with the chain thing. And listen, I'm not even saying I'm right about that. I mean, it's just my opinion, and my opinion is worth about as much as everybody else's opinion, which is basically nothing. But yeah, it's the whole Ed Reed thing to me is just a weird situation. Like I never saw that coming. It's just like it's like the Deion Sanders deal with him wanting to be a head coach. Look, Ed Reed, he's probably more qualified X's and O's wise than anybody on that staff at Miami. I mean, this guy's played, he's a Hall of Famer in the NFL. He's played at the highest level. He knows X's and O's all day, but he's never been a coach. He's never ran an organization. And I'm not saying he can't do his job well. I don't know. But it's just, it's an unusual sort of thing to see happen. That's all. Caught me off guard.
It is. Now, granted, he does have a little bit of coaching experience. He was the assistant safeties coach for the Bills for a season.
Oh, was he really? I didn't know that.
2016.
Huh. How'd that work out?
Well, I don't know, what was the Bills' record in 2016?
I don't think it was very good. I don't know, though.
Granted, it would take a lot more than him to fix the Bills.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And the frustrating part about it is Manny said there's a culture problem that needs to be fixed since day one. And then he turns around and does things like that, and it makes you wonder. Now, granted, I'm sure that kind of thing, I think, is what Ed Reed can be really good at helping to fix. Mm-hmm. But the fan base has got to learn just like if you change head coaches every few years, you're not going to succeed. You're not going to succeed if you keep changing offensive coordinators every few years either.
Yeah.
I mean, say what you want about him. Dan Enos has had success everywhere he's been. And I realize Rhett Lashley is the shiny new toy, but Rhett Lashley has only had success in one place. He was terrible at UConn, and there was a reason he got fired from Auburn.
Yeah, it feels to me like they wanted to go in a completely different direction with the entire style of offense, which is why they brought him in. And then that brings us into the next thing. This is something I've been wanting to know from you. Obviously, one of the biggest transfers in the offseason is Derek King coming down to Miami as a grad transfer from Houston. Listen, I don't know if you could have got a better transfer than him. He's experienced. He's skillful. He's got everything you need to, put him in there day one. And I don't, we'll see how he, it's one thing when he comes from Houston and he was surrounded with a bunch of skill and they already had an offense implemented there. It's a whole nother thing to come with a new offensive coordinator and, guys coming and leaving from Miami. So how do you feel as far as your confidence level from, 1 to 10 as how he will do in that offense and the offense in general?
I do think Miami will be a little better this year. The entire offensive line will be back. So that's a plus. They've never been lacking at the skill positions, wide receivers, tight ends,
right.
Running backs. And according to some, they've probably got the best tandem pair of tight ends in the country. I do think he's an upgrade at quarterback. He's going to be an upgraded quarterback play over what we've had. My concern with him is the stunt he pulled this past season.
Well, this is his last.
He benched himself.
Yeah, this is the last season though, so he can't do that. It's not like he can quit.
Well, and I understand that, but if he's going to quit on one team, there's, the thought's got to be in the back of your mind: is he going to quit on you too?
Well, I understand. I understand where you're coming from with that. But I think right now, I personally, I think he had that planned before it even happened. And, he played the 4 games and took advantage of the rule and everything. But listen, his back's up against the wall now. He doesn't have another year to play after this, and he wants to play in the NFL. Then he's going to have to go out there and ball out. Whether Miami's 10-0 after 10 games or 0-10, he's still going to have to ball out to impress the scouts. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think effort will be a problem. And as far as I know, and I don't know a whole lot about his character or attitude, but I think he's I have never heard any issues with him, being a problem player or anything. I just think he's a baller. So I would be excited about it if I were you, honestly.
Yeah, like I said, he's a definite upgrade. Now, granted, you still have to worry because he did have minor knee surgery, and granted, I think the offensive line is going to be better, but he's lining up behind an offensive line that gave up the most sacks in the country. Well,
that is true. And that's all the more reason to be happy to have him as long as his knee's okay, because he can move around. He can move around and maybe mask some of those protection problems. So,
that's what I'm thinking. But as far as overall, is it possible? Could they get to 10 wins? I think the defense is going to be back in the top 5 this year because a lot of Miami fans during the season complained about the defense. But here's the thing. You lost an All-American off the defensive line, an All-American out of the backfield, and 3 out of your 4 starters in the backfield. I had a feeling the defense was going to take a little step back. They stayed in the top 20. I can deal with that. But with the
I'm sorry to cut you off. Who does Miami open up the season with?
Temple.
All right. So when's their first? Who do they have after Temple? Do you know? I don't know if you have the whole schedule memorized. I probably should have.
I don't have it in front of me. I remember looking at it. A normal team, the way Miami should play, they should easily be 4-0 to start the season.
Yeah, I looked at their schedule the other day, but I looked at a bunch of them. I can't remember. I think you're right. I think I had them. Their first 2 or 3 games were very, very winnable games that they should win. And then, of course, in
their first 4 games, their strongest game is Michigan State. And granted, good defense, but there is absolutely no offense there.
Yeah. The obvious games you have to worry about are Florida State, and Virginia this year. Pitt is always a tough out. North Carolina. The Coastal Division in the ACC is actually, I think right now, a little bit deeper than the Atlantic Division in the ACC. But maybe
it may be
not,
and
not by a
here's
lot.
The thing. Miami beat Virginia. That's what's confusing.
Well, 10 wins would mean you beat Virginia, you beat Pitt, you beat North Carolina, which to beat all three of those teams would be surprising, honestly. I mean, I think you would lose probably at least one of those games, and then you'd have to beat both Florida and Florida State.
Well, we beat Pitt the last 2 years.
Yeah.
We beat Virginia this past year. Because that's been the real confusing thing. The last two Coastal Division champions, we beat them both.
Right.
But we lose teams like Georgia Tech. So that's where I think it's less. I think you were right on. It's less a talent issue there. It's more a culture issue and weeding out some bad heads.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if Chancellor, Presidente, Dictator, Chief of Staff, Chief of Police Ed Reed can make the difference.
I'm hoping, but I'm taking a wait and see approach with it.
Yeah, I hear you, man. All right. Well, is there anything else in Miami land that is concerning you that you want to talk about? Questions, comments, concerns? Or do you
Not much in the way of concerns. I'll tell you an aspect I'm looking forward to this year, honestly, is the defense. Because they've got that grad transfer defensive end from, oh God, what school was he from? I don't remember. He was in the AAC. He was like the number 2 defensive end in the country behind Chase Young. You got Greg Rousseau coming back, who was a phenom. You've got Jalen Phillips is now eligible to play after sitting out his year for transferring, who was the number 1 recruit in the nation in 2017.
Is his name Roche?
Roche.
Yeah. Well, the defense should be good. You need him to be good.
Oh, yeah, I think the defense is going to be outstanding because we'll also have Bubba Bolden back, the USC transfer safety. The entire young secondary we had last year has all got a year under their belt, so I think they're going to be much better. I think that defense is going to be nasty next year.
Well, that was the problem.
Really
that was the problem this year because what was it? 3 years ago when Miami went 11-1, made it to the ACC championship. The defense dominated everybody that year until they met up with Clemson. But everybody else pretty much they dominated, and they kept the offense afloat. Now the offense was not bad, but the defense is what really led them to all.
Well, the offense was bad. The thing was the defense created 35 turnovers and kept giving them the ball back.
Right.
So you're bound to score eventually, and I think that's how they kind of slide into a possible 10-win season this year. If the defense gets turnover hungry again this year and keeps giving the offense the ball back.
Well,
that's the one problem I see with this offensive system coming in is it's a lot like Kendall Briles' system is. They want to run a lot of plays as fast as they can. Well, look at the Virginia game. Because Kendall Briles would not slow the pace down, you gave Bryce Perkins the ball back with 5 minutes, and he beat you.
Yeah. Well, I'll do my my prediction on all the ACC team schedules, including Miami's, at some point. But just conservatively, without even going through game by game, I think if you can win 9 games, I think that'll be a success. 10 games would be ideal. And
outstanding. I'm thinking more along the lines of 8-4.
Well, I mean, listen, that's probably more reasonable. But people think they're going to win 11 games and go to the ACC championship game without a problem. I don't know what they're thinking. I get
told I'm delusional for saying 8-4.
What do you mean? They think that's too few wins?
Oh no. I'm, a lot of the Miami channels. I'm a traitor and a Judas now because I speak the same way there I do here. Realistically.
Well, that's why I like you, sir. Because you're real. I mean, look, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know how you can expect to come off of a season they had last year and expect. There's something about Miami fans. Listen, I get it. I get being a homer and being optimistic, but there's something about Miami fans in particular that think they're going to win 12, 13 games every year, no matter what happened the year before that.
Well, and I don't remember if I said this to you or Lou. I mean, as optimistic as I was going into last season, I may not be a football expert, but I do notice trends, and the trend is when you bring in a new head coach and a new staff, your record is worse than it was the previous year.
Yeah.
And that was in the back of my mind all year, all off season, as optimistic as I was.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be worse. At least if I'm you, I hope it wouldn't be because, like you said.
Well, no. I meant that as far as the 2019 season.
Yeah.
And it turned out that it was because perfect example. Take Kirby Smart's first year at Georgia. They were worse than the previous year under Mark Richt.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
I mean, that's just the trend of what happens. Alabama was worse Nick Saban's first year than they were the previous year.
Yeah, most teams are. You're right. I don't know. I think Kirby Smart probably was too. I know Dabo was. Now Ryan Day wasn't. That's a different story. Lincoln Riley wasn't. But they took up.
Even Miami's had coaches that broke that exception. I mean, there are exceptions to every rule.
Like Lincoln Riley and Ryan Day, they took over the keys to a Cadillac. I mean, it wasn't like they had to, fix anything. It was already it was already in place.
Lincoln Riley was handed a team that went 12-0.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
he was just told, don't crash the Ferrari.
Right.
And to his credit, he hasn't.
Well, he hasn't fixed it either as far as the defense goes, but.
Well, it's a work in progress. At least he got rid of the nepotism that was left over.
Yes, that's step number one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were improved this year over what they have been. Hey, power to them.
Well, they still, they were better, but not that much better. But I think they're get better. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. We could talk about that for 2 hours. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, Slim Shady Canes, I appreciate the call, brother. You always come through, and I've been looking forward to talking to you for the past couple of weeks.
My name is Nittany.
Yeah, it's been a crazy couple of weeks, honestly. Everything's just out of whack right now. I want to get on a schedule where I'm doing a stream, these call-in shows on a certain day and a certain time every week so people know when to look out for it. It just is, I mean, I wish this was my full-time job. It's not. And so, I got kids, I got a wife, I got this going on, that going on, and it's just always something. But I'll figure it out and I'll let everybody know. But kudos to you for showing up whenever I did come on. That's all that really matters.
Hey, I appreciate you taking my call, boss.
All right, man. I'll talk to you next time.
Yes, sir.
There you guys have it, Slim Shady Canes. And good afternoon, you're on with Pete.
Hi, this is Anthony. Pete, how are you?
Hey, how's it going, Anthony? What's up, man?
How was your New Year's and Christmas?
It was, I'm still alive, and that's about all I can say. So it was pretty good. Thanks for asking. How was yours?
Fine.
Are you on a speakerphone or something?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay. I'm sorry. You were breaking up, so I couldn't understand you. You sound all right now, though. So we're good.
Yeah. No. My house is iffy with phone connection, so that's probably why.
All right.
And honestly, I agree with Slim Shady. Go
stand in that one spot where it always works and stay right there. Don't move.
Okay.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I agree with Slim Shady Kane, honestly, in a sense that sometimes Hurricane fans get so hyped up, and when we don't do as we expect, we want to fire the coach right away, when we don't realize it takes a few years for a coach to acclimate to I know Manny was our defensive coordinator before, but he's never been a head coach at a major college program.
Right.
So, and what fans need to realize, it takes people a while to acclimate to a first-year head coach, specifically like Manny. It takes maybe 2 or 3 years for him to acclimate, and that's what I'm looking for. If he doesn't improve within the 3rd or 4th year, then I kick him out. Didn't it take Dabo a while to acclimate to being a head coach?
He had a rocky first couple of seasons. When he got into his 3rd and 4th and 5th season, people still look back on that and say, "Oh, he didn't do nothing for his first 5 years." Yeah, he did. At that point, he was winning 10 games a year and competing and going to New Year's Six bowl games. So he was doing more than what had been done in a long time at Clemson. He just was still losing games he shouldn't lose. He would win a big game, and then he would lose the whole Clemsoning thing. And then, of course, the biggest thing that people remember was he wasn't able to get past South Carolina. And so, but outside of the South Carolina thing, Steady was getting better, and he was climbing in the recruiting rankings. People that really were paying attention to the program and the culture could see that it was getting better. And then you have the casual fans and the non-Clemson fans out there that were going, "Oh, look, but he's still losing to he still lost to Wake Forest that year, and he still can't beat South Carolina." And I'm like, "Yeah, he still won 10 games and the Orange Bowl." So, yeah, so you got to pay close attention. Now, listen. He had a couple of seasons in those first 3 seasons that were not good, but nowody expected him to be good, really. I mean, because the reason that
he didn't have the talent.
He didn't have the talent, and the reason that Bowden got fired or quote unquote retired or left on his own in the first place is because he drove it into the ground. The team just was in disarray when he took it over, and so yeah, I agree with you. Listen, you got to give a new coach. At least, in my opinion, you got to give him 4 years. But like when you look at what happened with Willie Taggart, a year and a half or whatever it was. Now, listen, Dabo never had a 2-win season or a 4-win season or anything like that. He didn't. I mean, things at Florida State looked really, really bad, and so you didn't see that sort of a problem at Clemson. He just wasn't winning the games that they wanted him to win. But anyway. As long as you could tell that recruiting's getting better and you're not having discipline problems and you're not having academic problems and all that sort of thing, and things are getting better, even if it's a slow growth, then you got to give a guy 4 years at least. That's just my personal opinion. But these days, people aren't patient.
With the whole turnover chain thing, I think I understand it was a motivating tool for the defense to get better. And it did help the defense get a little bit better. Even with the talent, they weren't playing consistently well. But with the turnover chain, don't you think that helped?
No, I don't. I think that if your motivation for playing good defense is getting a chain around your neck, then that's a problem. Your motivation for playing good defense should be to help the team win. That might sound cliche, but there's nothing motivational about a chain. To me.
Oh, okay. And honestly, do you think, with this Ed Reed hiring, do you think it might lead to maybe, let's say Manny doesn't succeed the first 2 or 3 seasons under Ed Reed? Do you think it leads to maybe Manny getting replaced and Blake James maybe with Alonzo Highsmith or Mario Cristobal?
Well, that's an interesting question. I'll start with this. Do I think it could lead to Manny Diaz getting replaced? Yeah, it could. I think that could probably happen whether Ed Reed was there or not. The Mario Cristobal thing, that's the first I've heard of that. The way that Mario Cristobal is recruiting and has things rolling at Oregon right now, and really nobody in his way in the Pac-12, I don't know why Mario. I don't know that Miami's a better job. I know Mario Cristobal is from there, and so he might want to come home. But
no, that's not why I'm saying bring him here. But if Alonzo let's say Highsmith comes, do you think he would actually convince Mario to come to Miami?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think that right now Miami is a better situation for Mario than he has at Oregon. Oregon has the top 3, maybe top 2 facilities in the country. He's got Nike money. He's recruiting at a high level. He's got endless money and support. He's stealing all of the blue chip players on the entire West Coast. Right now, Washington's not looking too hot. They just lost their coach. Washington State lost their coach. Who else in the Pac-12 North or in the Pac-12 period is in Mario Cristobal's way? That Oregon is building something right now that they could just become a complete juggernaut in the Pac-12. He comes to Miami, it's a totally different situation. So I don't think that Miami's a better.
They have Clemson.
I don't think Miami is a better situation than Oregon for Cristobal to leave there.
And let's say that does happen. Let's say, like I said, if he can't bring Cristobal, who realistically do you think Charlie Strong is a good head coach, or do you think he's more of a coordinator in your opinion?
Well, I wouldn't want Strong, no, if that's what you're asking, no.
Yeah, and honestly, with Charlie Strong, what worries me about him, if let's say we do hypothetically convince him to come to Miami as a defensive coordinator, hypothetically, his defense is so out of touch with how the offenses are run. Do you think that if you're a Hurricane fan, that worries you a little bit with him being out of touch with how current offenses are being run and stuff like that?
I don't see
adjusting.
See, my as far as Charlie Strong goes, I don't have a problem with Charlie Strong as a coach or in general. I think he is a good coordinator, but my issue with recycling these head coaches that have been there and done that at major programs and have not done well, I'm much more in the line of thinking for going out and getting a young guy or promoting from within. If you look at the 4 teams that were in the playoff this year, you had Ed Orgeron was promoted from within. Ryan Day was promoted from within. Lincoln Riley was promoted from within. Dabo Swinney was promoted from within. Now, Orgeron was the only one out of all those guys who had head coaching experience in the past, but the other 3 were either coordinators or just position coaches at their respective schools. They were all young, and you saw how that worked out. So I don't.
That's what worries me with the Hurricanes defensive staff specifically, because honestly, I don't really trust them to be consistent all the time. That's why people are saying Manny should be the one taking control of that defense, period. I understand he's a head coach, but he should be the one taking control of the defense overall, because honestly, Blake Baker is not ready to be a defensive coordinator at a Power 5 level.
But we've seen Manny Diaz be a defensive coordinator, and when he was a defensive coordinator under Mark Richt, they had a top 5 defense in the country. So we know that Manny Diaz can manage a defense. I don't have a problem with the head coach, taking control of the defense if they're capable of doing it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I don't trust Blake Baker to be consistent throughout the season because he doesn't have experience coaching at a Power 5 level. And Banda, I don't think he can be a coordinator either yet. He needs more experience to maybe go under like a Nick Saban or something like that if he wants to learn with a more experienced coach, or like a Mike Rump if he wants to be a coordinator. I don't trust anybody on the defensive staff to consistently have a good defense throughout the season is what I'm worried about, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I wouldn't be worried about the defense if I were you. As long as Manny Diaz is there. Even last year, they had maybe not a great year defensively, but they weren't bad. So I wouldn't be worried about the defense at all. The problem's on the offense. So,
Yeah, and is De'Ara King? He only has 1 year, or does he have two years?
I think he's only got one.
And do you think? And I think that's what's going to happen with De'Ara King. It's going to be a 1 year, and maybe have a guy like Tyler Van Dyke learn under De'Ara King, and Tyler come in, because I keep on hearing during practices that Lassie actually likes him. He has really high expectations for Tyler Van Dyke coming in, because even though he's more of a pro style. Can you explain when they say dual threat and pro style? Does it mean that a pro style quarterback is not athletic? They can't run?
It just means that. Well, it means exactly what it means. It means it's more pro style. It's not spread out. And yeah, I mean, a dual threat's a guy who's a runner and a passer. A pro style quarterback is just more of a pocket passer. But
do you think, honestly, do you think those terms actually pigeonhole quarterbacks coming out of high school?
Yes.
When you say pro style or dual threat?
I do. I think that it's a label that you can't really put on somebody. Trevor Lawrence was labeled a pro style quarterback, and we know he can run. And so, yeah, and there's plenty of dual threat quarterbacks who can sit in the pocket and deliver the ball all over the field too. So yeah, you really shouldn't pay much attention to that. But the bigger question is, do you run a pro style offense? Forget the quarterback, or do you run a spread type offense? But most of the colleges now, and even the NFL, they're all running some version of the spread or another. So,
yeah, it's depending on which team you're following.
Yeah.
Well, most teams in college and the pros are all spread. No one's having a back. It's a pro style spread offense is what it is.
Well,
don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, you can get all caught up in the terms, but the bottom line is every team is either running all spread or some version of it. There's no such thing as a true definition of a pro style offense where everything is taken from under center and it's ground and pound,
like a West Coast offense.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen.
You think that's not going to be successful anymore in college and the pros anymore? Translating to the NFL, because most of the offenses are going to be spread.
Well, most of all of these offenses now are multifaceted. They do all of it, but everything's based on the spread now, pretty much. I mean, you look at the NFL, you look at the two teams that are in the Super Bowl this year, and most of the other high flying offenses in the NFL, they're taking the vast majority of their snaps out of the shotgun and a spread offense. It's just not the way it used to be. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's. Do you think it's ever the West Coast offense is going to ever become as popular as it was like in the 80s and 90s, like it was back then, where that's what scouts in the NFL are going to be looking for, specifically a guy who can read offenses down the field and stuff like that, defenses and stuff like that, because a spread offense, what worries me about a spread offense is it's a one read off. Spread offenses are just one side of the field. They're not usually all
that's not
reading the whole.
That's not what that means at all. All that means is that they're spreading it out. They're spreading out the line. They're spreading out the receivers, and they're making you cover sideline to sideline. That's all it means. Thanks
for answering my call, Pete. Have a good rest of your weekend.
All right, man. I appreciate the call, brother. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
All right, so we'll do our last tribute to the Chancellor, the President, the King, the Dictator, and, of course, the Chief of Staff, Ed Reed. I haven't been paying much attention to the chat because I've been on the phone with these guys, but thank you all for joining me in the chat. I'll get in there in a second. I've had one hell of a tired thumb over the past couple of weeks since I started blocking everybody on the YouTube channel that does not talk about football. Listen, I have no problem with trolling. Troll away as long as you're intelligent. But if every single comment that you leave is just anything about football and only about the way I look, or only about everything except for football, like I said, you're getting blocked, and I blocked probably, I don't even know where I'm up to now. I'm losing count, but it is a block party. So feel free to do just that, and you will join the block party. Let me see who is in the chat here. Looks like Comic Dude 45 with a $2 super chat. It looks like that might have been a while ago. Juwan Howard inherited a Ferrari and he crashed it. Yeah, he did. Hold on one second.
We are sorry, but the show has ended. Goodbye.
I shut down the phone lines. That's all that was. That wasn't the show ending. I'll go ahead and take a few minutes here with the people who are remaining and answer questions in the chat. Let me scroll back up here and see what you guys have been talking about in here. Slim Shady Cane's coming through with a $5 super chat. Hashtag get real engine. Get a real engine. What the hell? Get a real engine. I'm talking to you, Florida State. I don't know. That sounds a little bit derogatory, but I'm going to let that slide. I don't know if calling people engines is politically correct these days, but who cares? This is the Bixby and Pete YouTube channel. You can use words like engine. I'm not going to get triggered over it. Clemson Carson's in the house. Dale Rawls, I wonder if the SEC will be brave enough to play a bowl game outside of their own backyard. Play a bowl game out of their own? I don't think they don't really get to choose where their bowls are. So I'm not quite sure what you meant by that. I wonder if the SEC, well, never mind, I'm not going to even get into that. We'll be here all night. Russell Harrison, how you doing, sir? Sure, if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Jay Jobs is in the house. Chiefs are the LSU of the NFL. I'm pretty sure shit rolls downhill, not uphill. So if you're going to make that comparison, you should word it that LSU is the Chiefs of college football. Right? Did that make sense? Jason Gilbert. LSU would have put 60 on Ohio State. Probably. Graphicon. I love it when people spew hypothetical crap because they know it'll never happen. Well, there you go. That answers that question. Mike 3883. Looks like he's talking to Jason Gilbert. Yeah, listen, this debate about who would have done what against who is total speculation, just like a gentleman just said a minute ago. Comic Dude 45. I already read that. Hell, I must have scrolled way back up. Slim Shady Canes with another $5 super chat. Florida State has Daniel Boone riding that horse. At least get a real Seminole. Now, I will agree with that. There's just a lot of weird stuff going on with mascots in college football. They probably should give a scholarship to, I don't know, maybe somebody who's not white. And listen, I'm not one of these social justice warriors, race baiter people who gets mad about everything. But it's hard for me to figure that in the entire United States, hell, the entire world, that they can't find somebody, even with a slightly darker complexion than the guy who's riding that horse, to throw that spear into the ground during those games. Preferably an actual Native American. I don't know. Just saying. A lot of weird stuff going on with the mascots, though. Thank you for the super chat, sir. DeGoat Watson's in the house. What's going on, fam? I'm glad you're feeling better, Tiger Nation. Well, I'm glad Tiger Nation's feeling better because I'm feeling worse. I got this coronavirus. I'm cutting up limes over here, trying to get rid of it. Rubiteri, what's up, Pete? The Clemson D-line gets stronger with Corey Foreman commit. Dominant. Yeah, I'm going to get into the recruiting here soon. Now, next week is the final signing day. So that'll be ground zero. We'll talk about it then. But yeah, the Clemson recruiting is through the roof. Of course, they've been number one in the recruiting rankings for the past 6 months, and all of a sudden they dropped to 3, as if that matters. I mean, it does matter, how good you recruit, but the difference between 1, 2, and 3, 4, or 5 doesn't really matter. People can say what they want to say, but it doesn't. SEC dogs in the house. Giggles in the house. What's up, everybody? What's up with you, sir? Y'all keep all the own SEC talk. I've never seen Clemson play in Atlanta first week in December and never will. You've never seen Clemson play in Atlanta in the first week in December? No, you haven't. I'm having a hard time figuring out what you're trying to say there, because that's not going to happen. We go to Death Valley Junior and change your own field. You might want to try to beat LSU before you start talking about Clemson beating them. I'm pretty sure we beat them more recently than you have, sir. McD Sports 4, Dennis Wilson. Prince 6'1" in the house. My man, I'll see you on April the 4th, by the way, Prince, for the spring game at Clemson. And I'm sure I'll see a lot of you other guys there as well. He's saying Clemson should join the SEC. First of all, it's not going to happen. So people can hope that all they want. And the reality of the situation is, for all these SEC fans, especially the ones in the East, like Georgia, like South Carolina, like Tennessee, like Florida, if you're a fan of any of those teams and you are wishing for Clemson to join the SEC, you might want to double think that. Believe me, you don't want Clemson to join your division. I don't know why you would. Anyway. All right, guys. It's been over an hour, and the coronavirus is really starting to take over Pigskin Pete here. Thank you to all the super chatters. Thank you to all the commenters. Let me go through the super chats here. Nice Guy TV, Comic Dude 45, and Slim Shady Canes. Thank you to all the callers who all called. Donjay Crawford, Nice Guy TV, Slim Shady Canes. I apologize. I forget the gentleman's name that just called in on the last one. Before I go, though, who do you guys have in the Super Bowl? I'm going to go ahead and go against the grain. First of all, I'm rooting for the Chiefs, so I'll go ahead and get that out of the way. I want the Chiefs to win just because of, obviously, Sammy Watkins, Breland, and Odoran at linebacker. 3 Clemson players that start on that Chiefs team. There is at least one player on San Francisco who is a Clemson player too, but I'm rooting for the Chiefs. Plus, the Chiefs haven't won a Super Bowl in 50 years. I don't even know if they've been to a Super Bowl in 50 years. I know they haven't won one at least in 50 years, so I'm rooting for the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. But as far as my pick goes, I'm picking the 49ers because usually when everybody is picking one team and expecting one team to win, the other team wins. And San Francisco has been dominant, and I am still a firm believer. I'm old school, and I still believe that defense wins championships. And San Francisco's got the best defense in the league. So anyways, I hope it's a good game. That's all I really care about. I could really care less who wins the game. I'm rooting for the Chiefs, but I'm going to pick the 49ers to win. Everybody else, let me know who you're picking. Looks like J-Job says Kansas City. Clemson Carson says Chiefs 31, Niners 27. Mike 3883 says, what's my score prediction? Wow, that's a good question. Oh, I think people think it's going to be high scoring. I say I'm going to say 38-34 San Francisco. There you go. The GOAT Watson says he's rooting against Mahomes. I'm assuming that's because he's a Watson fan and he's still mad about Mahomes being liked more than Watson, taking ahead of Watson. I don't know. When people picked LSU, they won. A lot of people picked Clemson. I think that was pretty split. There was a pretty split both in media and in the fan bases between the national championship game. But Tiger Nation says he doesn't care. Yeah, I don't really care either. All right, guys, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. It's been amazing and fantastic. I will see you all guys very, very soon. Have a great night. Pigskin Pete is checking out.